Hello, and welcome to another edition of Get Outside St. Tammany. I'm your host, Davis Brister, and we have a special episode planned for you where we are literally taking this show outdoors. The weather is changing, and many of us will be spending significant time with family and friends on the water soon, which is certainly one of our finest attractions, not only here in St. Tammany Parish, but all throughout South Louisiana. The National Safe Boating Council typically uses this time to remind us that while boating can be fun, it can also be dangerous. And so they reserve 1 week to inform and remind us of how to enjoy ourselves while staying on the water safely. Now it's time to hit the waters at a local marina where we meet Chris Cottrell from the Lake Pontchartrain Sail and Power Squadron. He will take us aboard the beautiful boat named Talk About Good. He'll perform a vessel check and also tell us about the squadron itself.
I'd like to welcome everybody here today to Marina Beauchene, right here on the banks of the Tchefuncte River. And what we were going to do today is do a vessel safety examination on George Trousdale's boat, the Talk About Good. Hey, how's it going, George? You doing all right?
Just fine.
Man, I'm here to do a little vessel safety check. You ready?
Very good. I hope I'm ready. I believe I am.
I think you are. All right, we'll do. Aboard there or here? Permission aboard.
Permission granted, sir.
Thank you. Well, George, appreciate your scheduling with us to have a vessel safety check today.
Appreciate you coming.
How'd you find out about us?
Well, I was on the website and I found the Lake Pontchartrain Sail and Power Squadron website.
Right.
And I looked in there and it talked about this vessel safety check that I figured I needed because I got to be sure everything's right.
Hey, we appreciate it, and that's exactly how you would do it. The Lake Pontchartrain Sail and Power Squadron does have a website, and then when you go to the website, you just click on the link that says Vessel Safety Checks, and it'll notify us that you want one, and it'll ask for some basic information that you need to provide, name and where your boat is and what type and that. And as soon as we receive that, we'll give you a call. Now, one of the things, before we get started, I want to make sure you understand there's no charge for this. The Power Squadron does this as a civic action, and we do these all over Louisiana, Mississippi local area. When we come onto your boat, we ask that we'll go down a checklist that's approved by the Power Squadron. It's approved by the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries and the Coast Guard, and we'll go down that. I will ask you questions about the boat safety and about safety items on your boat. As you answer them, we'll check them off as yes and no or not applicable, and then from there we'll, at the end, if you pass everything, you'll get a decal that you can put on the side of your boat that identifies that you're a safe boater and you've been inspected.
Great.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Well, look, any questions for me before we start?
So far, so good.
All right. Well, the first thing we're going to do is a little admin information, George. Do you have your registration for this boat?
Yeah, I read a little bit about it, and I saw that you were going to need that kind of stuff. So here's the documentation.
Now, on a boat this size, what is this, about 41 and a half feet, it's documented through the Coast Guard, so he has a different documentation than you would if you were on like a bass boat or a ski boat. So this is a 40-footer, so it's documented through the Coast Guard. I see your expiration date's March 31st, 2017, and your registration number's right there. So that's good to go. Display of numbers, registration, yes. Now, if I were doing a bass boat right now, then the display of numbers are the numbers that are provided by the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries out of Louisiana. That's when you see those numbers on the hull of a boat on the port side and the starboard side, and it's got the state emblem, the little state decal. But you don't need that on this, but if you had one of those boats, I'd be looking for that. And I'd make sure that that information that's on the bow on both sides is the same information as this. Okay? All right, so good on that. Next thing we want to check is personal flotation devices.
All right.
All right. Now, what we're required on this is for every person that's on a boat, or that's on this boat, they would need to have a PFD if we were going to take this boat out. So right now, if we were doing it, we'd have to have 5.
I have 12 of them.
Yes. All right. So they have to be not only on board, they have to not be in a locker. They can't be wrapped up. They have to be available to be reached easily if needed. And if you have children, then the life jacket has to fit the child. So if you were on a boat going out and you had a child on this boat and you only had adult life jackets, then that would not be good. if a child falls in with one of those on, they could conceivably go right through the life jacket, and then they're not protected at all. But in your case, I need to see, let's see 3 or 4 of them. I just want
one out.
All right, that's good. I just, for you.
I have some more down there if you need.
So what we're looking for on these is we're looking for serviceability. We're looking to make sure it has a Coast Guard approved stamp on it, which it does. And this is a type 2.
This go around your waist.
Right, and then this goes over your head. The next part about personal flotation devices, in addition to them fitting and them being on board, is that there's different regulations in the state of Louisiana and federal for when you have to wear one. Generally, if you're on a boat and you're 16 years or younger, you have to wear a PFD when you're on the boat and it's moving away from the dock. If you're on a boat this size, technically you don't have to have it on, but if you were to need them, you have to have one for every person that fits, and it has to be accessible.
All right.
All right. Next thing we're going to check is visual distress signals. All right, that would be a flares, a set of flares. You have flares?
Flares.
All right. Now what we're looking for here on the visual distress is if you were to get in a bind at any time, you would have to have something on board that you could identify to other people that you were in distress. In this case, there's a number of how many you need to have, and it tells you by size of boat how many you need to have. And on yours, you need to have at least, what, 3? Yeah. And you need to have them on the date. So what we're looking for now is you should be able to see the date on them and make sure that the date has not expired. Now this one it's right here, and it's July 2018. So you're good to go on those. Thank you. Next thing you need on this boat is fire extinguishers.
Yes, sir.
Now on the size of boat that you have, you need to have at least 3 B1s. Do you have a fire extinguisher that's mounted to the engine room?
Yes, it's automatic. It goes off. And
okay, so in that case, you would need one of those and 2 B1 or B2s. Do you have
one right here?
Okay. So what we're looking for on the fire extinguishers, obviously it's a B1 or a B2, and it says so right here. And then it also shows that it's green, it's full. We're looking to make sure the pin wasn't pulled, and they recommend having at least one of them mounted, which his is mounted. Okay, good job, you pass on that. George, I want to revisit something with you on the personal flotation devices. A boat of this size, in addition to having the life jackets that you put on, is required to have what's called a Type 4 throwable.
Yes.
And that would be a chair seat, or, there it is right there. And what you do is, on a boat this size, it's difficult if somebody fell over to turn fast enough to get back. Somebody's going to be in the water a good amount of time before you can get back to them. So first thing you want to do is throw something to them that they can hang on to, especially if by chance they didn't have a PFD on them. But got to have a Type 4, and there it is right there. Looking good. Good job. All right, fire extinguishers, we're good. Ventilation, you're good. All right, you don't need, there's a one on here called backfire flame control. If you have an internal gasoline engine, it has to have a backfire flame control, and we would have to inspect it. Your engines are diesel? That's correct. Not required on this one, so we're good there. Now, if you have a gas engine and it's not enclosed, then you don't have to have a backfire flame control, i.e. if you had an outboard. But if you've got an inboard and it's gas, you got to have one. Okay, sound producing devices and a bell. A boat this size is required to have a bell. 40 feet and higher needs to have a bell on it. You have a bell?
Yes, sir.
There's your horn.
I have a horn.
Yeah, and your bell's
The bell
is right
built
there.
in under the seat.
Okay.
And that's by manufacturer.
Got it. Alrighty. Do you have a whistle or anything like that too? All right. On the smaller boats, you don't have to have a bell, but you need to have a whistle. A lot of people have those air horns, and the reason you use those is several reasons. One would be if it's inclement weather, i.e. if it's foggy, people can't see you, you're in a smaller boat anyway. If it's dusk or nighttime, you definitely need to have those. And then of course, if you get in any danger, having an ability to put a sound out that people can hear further away than just yelling is always good. So you got those good. All right, let's check your navigation lights. Probably one of the most important parts of the examination, and one of the parts that gives us the most fits, because it seems that they are temperamental. So let's take a look. Are on a vessel, anytime it's going to be used after sundown and before sun up, it has to have lights. And of course, it has to have a red and a green on the front, and then you have to have a 360 light on the back. Sailboats have a different requirement. They've got some that they've got to be on the mast, so you got to clear up there also. And it also identifies when you're out at dark. If you see the different patterns of the lights, you can tell what kind of boat it is out there, whether it's a sailboat, a power boat, a commercial boat, a towboat. All of them have different light patterns. Okay, so nav lights, you're good. Boat this size requires a pollution placard.
Pollution placard.
Yes.
I don't know where that is.
Yes, and
Marpole.
called a Marpole garbage dumping restrictions, and it's required on boats of this size. And any boat that's 26 feet or longer is required to have one of those on there. It's required by the Coast Guard, federal requirement. Okay, you got one. Also, do you have a pollution placard?
Yes, sir.
Let's see where that's at.
Let's
go on down and take a look. Okay, the discharge of oil placard is required on boats 26 feet and longer, and it's a federal requirement just to make sure that everybody on board knows that you can't be throwing oil or having oil that gets released into the environment. The same way with the trash, Marpole trash placard is to remind not only the boat operator but the people that are on the boat, by having it where you place it by the garbage, then they know right then nothing is supposed to go into the water that hadn't been cut up. Okay, so what happens on a boat of this size is he has a marine sanitation device. It's usually called a macerator, and it's what chops up all of the sewage.
Effluent.
Yeah, effluent, and it is down there. And let me take a look, please. And what we're looking for are two things. One,
Pull up.
you want to get it?
It's unlocked.
Yeah. All right, so what we're looking for on the macerator is first that it's there, second that it's closed, and then third, the new requirement is that they have to have some way to lock it. And it could be a zip lock, a plastic zip lock, some way to make you think one more time before you accidentally open that and release any sewage out into the water. And that's what I'm looking for right now, and I will see if it's here. Okay, yeah. Now, there's your filter. There it is, and you're gonna go. Okay, marine sanitation. Oh, one other thing while we're here, what I wanted to show you, on a boat this size, on the display of numbers, because his boat is certified by the Coast Guard, it's registered, then he has to have the number affixed to a permanent place on the boat. And in this case, he's got it right there on the actual part of the boat in the engine room. George, that's good. We can shut that up. Good job. Very clean engine room down there too. There's a requirement to have a copy of the navigation rules. Right. And those nav regs are also called coal reg rules, and what they do is they identify the different rules there are for handling boats inside of the coastal United States and outside of the coastal United States on the international. So you'll see there it's called the Homeland Security Navigation Rules. It's got international rules and inland rules. Good, and you have to have those on 26 foot or larger. You have it, good. Okay, state and local requirements you've met. So we'll be a go there. And then you have a galley.
Yes, sir.
Let's take a look, all right? The circuit breakers are connected to the fuse box on here, and that's how you can control the galley. All right, let's see what we got. All right, so you got refrigerator, microwave, freezer, yep, galley systems right here. So that is a way, if you get an emergency, if there's any problem areas, you can come in here, you can flip the galley system switch off, and you've got separate ones for the refrigerator and the microwave and that. So you've got it tied in, and that's good. Good. All right, so under the vessel safety check decal requirements, you have met all of the requirements at this time. Yes, you did. And now there's also a side that's got about 8 topics that are called recommended topics, and we'll go over those real quick and talk about some other topics that of interest to marine boaters. So number 1 is a marine radio. Do you have one on the boat?
Yes, sir. I have 2.
Okay, excellent. Now those are VHF radios, allows them to talk. talk to, obviously you can talk to the Coast Guard, you can talk to other boaters, you can you call in your emergencies. If you needed to call one in, you'd use that. You want to talk to the bridge operators. If you're going through Madisonville, you need to open the bridge, call them on channel 13 and talk to the bridge operator. We take it there. Okay, do you have a backup dewatering device?
Yes.
That would be like a bucket or a handheld pump?
I have a bucket.
Okay. Now, you would need those if for some reason the power on the boat went off and your bilges didn't work. It gives you some other way to start getting water off of here. Next would be a mounted fire extinguisher. You've got mounted ones. They're not required, but it is kind of suggested, recommended that you have them mounted so that when you go to look for it, it hadn't rolled off somewhere. It's right where you think it's supposed to be. Obviously anchor, you've got the anchor and anchor line in the front.
Yep, yes sir.
I saw those.
They work.
Okay, you got first aid kit?
Yes sir.
All right, where's first aid kit?
It's in the forward head.
All right, and that's the whole key. Is not only is it recommended that you have a first aid kit, but it's also recommended you know where it is, because it's like life jackets. When you need them, you don't need to be, and fire extinguishers. When you need them, you don't need to be looking for them. You need to know where they're at and see it.
Absolutely.
Okay, inland visual distress signal would be some type of flag, the orange flag.
I do have an orange flag.
And now what is that? What that is it's basically an orange flag. If you get in any distress, you can show that flag. People that are in boating know immediately what that signal's for and come to your aid at that point.
And it floats also, so a helicopter can see it.
Yes, indeed. I didn't. Okay, and then you've got a certificate of compliance, which is usually right by the helm from the Coast Guard, saying your boat meets all Coast Guard requirements. On the smaller boats, it's a certificate of capacity or a capacity plate, and it tells you the max horsepower you can have on the boat. It tells you the max weight, max number of people, and it's called a capacity plate. On a big boat like this, they don't usually put a capacity plate. They put what's called a certificate of Coast Guard compliance, which means everything that's on this boat is in compliance with Coast Guard requirements. So it's not recommended. I'm going to put
Recommended, but not.
Yeah. I'm going to put here discussed. Okay? And then...
Well, would the Coast Guard issue that to me?
No, it should come with the boat.
May have.
Now, the second thing you can do is in the manual that came with the boat, most of the boats that are this size come with a manual. And the very front pages says, there's a statement on there saying this meets all Coast Guard requirements. If you had that, you could easily show them that too. Okay? So what we want to do now is just talk about a couple topics that are on the sheet, not required, but just things to be aware of. So we talk about accident reporting. It's the owner's responsibility. If you were to have an accident, there's under Louisiana state law, there's requirements for if it exceeds $100. You have to report it. If there's a major damage, it has to be reported a certain way. If there's a death, it has to be reported within so many hours. So make sure if you get a copy of the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fishery regulations, it'll tell you what the time requirements are on all of those. On a boat this size, and even if you're going out into the lake, there are charts, which are basically, that's another name for maps. And it shows all of the aids to navigation that are out in the lake or in whatever body of water you're going to be on. And that would include, if you see the green markers and the red markers, it shows you where you should go, helps get you where you're going. It also shows the depths of the water. So if your boat draws a certain depth, you don't want to go into an area that's too shallow. But anyway, those nautical charts and navigation aids are available. You can buy them, any of the local stores. They also are online. And if you want to learn to read those, there's a number of classes that the Power Squadron puts on, the Lake Pontchartrain Sail and Power Squadron, to include coastal inland navigation, the ABC course, and several other piloting course. They do a sailboat course, and they do navigation, junior navigation, advanced navigation. A number of courses. If you want to ever see those, go to the same website, the Lake Pontchartrain Sail and Power Squadron, and you can log into there or click onto there and see those classes. The next one you want to talk about is the float plan. whenever you take your boat out, it's good that somebody knows where you're going and when you're going to return, or when you're expected to return. And that person would then be the person that, if you weren't back in time, to start notifying people to start looking for you. Now if you're just local, like if you're just fishing and you're taking a canoe out in the river, you still want people to know. As you get ready to take more involved trips, you might want to put together a float plan. You can go to the Power Squadron website, pull up a float plan, and on it, it shows, it tells the name of your boat, it tells you who's on the boat, it tells you what size your boat, it tells you where you were going and what time you think you were going to be back. You want to fill all that in with the rest of the information that's suggested that you provide, and then you want to give that to a friend. Now, don't give it to the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard doesn't accept float plans, but give it to a friend, give it to somebody maybe in the Power Squadron, a relative, somebody that would know if you weren't back by a certain time to start looking for you, and they would have that document to give to the official saying, here's everything about the boat we know. It's this color, it's this length, it's got this many people on it, and it was last seen leaving Madisonville heading for New Orleans. Okay, so if you haven't done a float plan, it's definitely a suggestion that you might want to look into, and if you want to see an example of one, go to the Lake Pontchartrain Sail and Power Squadron website. Finally, there's a safe boating course. I want to talk to you. There's a state requirement now that says that anybody that was born after January 1st, 1984, that's going to operate a vessel with over a 10 horsepower motor is required to have a certificate saying that you've completed the ABC course, which is the American Boating Course. So we need to get if you're going to have people operating your boat that was born after 84, make sure to get them over there and get them certified to do that. The course covers a number of topics about boating, and basically it's an introductory course to tell you about types of boats, tells you about navigation, tells you a little bit about charting, tells you about accidents, federal laws, state laws, all of the requirements that you have to do in order to boat. So if you're gonna operate a boat and you haven't had it, it'd be suggested to go ahead and do that. If you are required to take it, meaning you were born after January 1st, 1984, then it's also required that you have it on your person or in the vessel when you're out in the vessel. So one other point on the safe boating classes is, even if you're not of the age that's required to take it, by taking it, it'll often give you a discount with your boating insurance. So it's another good reason to take it. One thing I also wanted to bring back up on the flares that we looked at earlier. Should you have flares on board that were expired, you don't have to get rid of them. It's often that you can keep them on there. It wouldn't count for the examination, but if you ever needed flares, you could use those first and then go into the other flares as needed. So don't get rid of them. You can keep them on the boat. They just won't count for the examination piece, but could come in handy if needed. George, what we're going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and put that you're going to get awarded the decal, and I've put all of my examiner information here on the bottom, so I just need you to sign right here.
All right, sir.
All right, and what we'll do here is I keep a copy that I log in saying that your boat has, your vessel has been examined and has passed. I'll log it in. You can keep this on the vessel itself should you ever be in a position where somebody asked if you had the check. In addition to having your decal, which I'm getting ready to give you, you can also show them that.
Okay.
All right. So this decal goes on the port side in the front, bow port side of your boat, and I will have to be there when you put it on. Okay. And this is good through 2016. December 31st. On January 1st, 2017, it's time to start looking for a new one. So it's not a year from when I give it to you, it's the year of 2016. All right, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate you doing that for me.
All right, well, let's go out and put that on.
All right.
Great information that should make us all ready to hit the waters safely. Until next time, I'm Davis Brister for Get Outside St. Tammany.